All right. Where do I find the link? Where the? Hmm. Hmm. Now, where do I find the link? Hmm. Add streaming. Coding software. Go live. Basic info. You'd think the link would be in basic info. Hmm. I have no idea. That's generally not good. So I was hoping Kevin would do it, but you're stuck with me right now. All one person who's watching. Hello, by the way. Analytics channel. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. I'm not offline. I'm also not speaking very loud right now, and I don't really know how to fix it on OBS right now. Maybe I can. Yes, I can. I can do this. Whoop. Now I'm a little louder. And that's as loud as I can get. But I still need to figure out what the hell the link is. If one of you could actually post the link into for this video into the chat, I would appreciate that. Since you are watching, I imagine there's a link that you guys have that is not the same as live dashboard, which is what I have. Did it get thicker? No, I just haven't shaved right here, which I normally do. Can't post links in chat. You have my you do have my Skype, so if you would not mind sending it to Skype, I would appreciate that immensely. Otherwise, I can't actually put a thing on Facebook to let people know this is going on. Oh, dripping tea thing. Cool. Nope. Whatever, open. I'll just copy the link and paste it. Stupid Skype. Nope. All right. We'll hold our breath. And oh, it's 8 o'clock, so I officially started. No, I didn't. Bam, link. Publish. I need to change the thumbnail for this one. Because it's Kevin's face right now. And Kevin's not in this one. It's me. So, good evening, everyone. I am the only host tonight. Drew. So, what we're going to be doing tonight is we're going to be talking about Theists of Kaltebrunn. More importantly than reading, or than actually uh, just talking about it, we're going to be reading. I happen to find that it was in the appendix of this. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be reading his trial. Things you should note. 1. First of all, where Livonia is. Livonia is basically about where modern day Latvia is. It was previously Baltic pagan, but then taken over by the Crusaders, belonging first to the Sword Brothers and then became the Teutonic Knights, which are both German crusading orders, primarily Saxon, if that matters to you. If it doesn't matter to you, it's still primarily Saxon. So, that is where this is all set, in a Crusader state. It was originally written in the really strange Middle German that the, I want to say this Teutonic Order who wrote this one, wrote in, but they both wrote in a very similar German, but it's a mishmash of about 4 different styles of German that is basically a little bit more similar between each other than Spanish and Portuguese. So you pretty much need to be very familiar to actually translate it. So I'm not translating it. I'm going to be using the translation that can be found in the appendix of Witches, Werewolves, and Fairies by Claude Lecatoy. There you go. Also, this is a translation from French. So we're looking at translations of translations. And without further ado, I'll give you a date on it. This was from January 1691. So it is technically still a Crusader state. However, they are not crusading anymore. It's similar to the way that Hungary was a Crusader state. Yeah. So, let's start. In puncto. In short, I should probably just not use the Latin. Just translate it. Lycanthropy and other forbidden and harmful acts. Judges present. The Honorable Assessor, Bengt Johann Ackerstaff. Substitute for the Provincial Judge, the Honorable Assessor, Gabriel Berger. Peter, innkeeper of Kaltebrunn, who smiled after taking the oath, is asked the reason. Response. I see that my comrade, Ulthias, must also swear. Question. Why would he not have to take the oath, like you, and testify presently on the theft in the church? Response. Everyone knows that he visits the devil often and that he is a werewolf. How can he swear since he does not deny having been one for these many long years? After hearing other witnesses, addendum testimonium, I'm not sure what addendum means, but the old Thias was criticized for this, and he simply acknowledged that he had been a werewolf in the past, but that he had not been one for at least 10 years. He furthermore stated that he had already been questioned on this subject in Natal, at the time when my lord, the Baron Kronstern, and the Honorable Rosenthal and Kaulich were still judges, when, at this time, Skysten, peasant of Lemberg, now deceased, had broken his nose because the informant had brought wheat seeds back from hell, which the aforementioned Skysten had thrown there in order to prevent the wheat from growing. The judges named above had done nothing to him, and made fun of him and let him go free because Skysten had not appeared in court. Before undertaking any further questioning, they gathered more information on the matter to find out if Thias was in full possession of his sense and reason and had not been insane, whether he wasn't still, to which, in addition to those who knew Thias well, the Honorable Bengt Johann Ackerstaff, representing the provincial judge, replied, saying that Thias had lived on his land in the past and had been in his service for a few years, that he had never been lacking in good sense, and he had never denied what he was, and that, as the judges at the time had done nothing to him, Thias had been a werewolf even more freely, and that the country people had almost idolized him. Se ad haec quaere balter. When and where did Skysten hit him, and with what? Response. In hell with a broom handle that had horsetails tied onto it. The judge presiding over the session testified that at this time, Thias had a big wound on his nose. How did the informant get to hell, and where is it? Response. Werewolves go there on foot, in the appearance of wolves. Hell is at the end of a lake called Puer Esser in the bog under Limburg, about half a mile from Klingenberg, the domain of the gentleman who serves as a substitute for the president in hell. In hell, there are splendid places and guards who brutally beat those who want to bring back wheat seeds and the wheat brought here by sorcerers. The seeds are kept in one purse, ? And the wheat in the other. Oh, thank you. Question. What do you look like when you change into werewolves? Response. We have wolf skins that we simply put on. A peasant from Marienborg, who came from Riga, brought me one that I gave to a peasant from Ala a few years ago. One questioned. Thias did not want to give their names, and when asked to specify, he varied in his statements, saying that they would go into the bushes, take off their usual clothes, and turn immediately into wolves. And they would roam around like wolves, pulling into pieces any horses and livestock they came across, but the informant never tore into pieces of large animals, uniquely lambs, kids, and piglets, etc. However, in this Siegewold region, there's a fellow now dead now, Tai Rumen, very distinguished. The informant was nothing compared to him because the devil gives more power to one than another, and this fellow attacked large livestock just because they were there. He attacked pigs in their fattening pens, carried them off from farms and eating them with his company. There were often 20 or 30 of them who would carry off loads of beasts. Then they would eat on their way and roast their prey. Question. How do you make fire and with what? We would take fire from the farms in cauldrons, and we would make spits with wood and burn the fur. We did not eat raw meat. Question. Did the informant often attend such meals and banquets? Yes, of course. Question. What became of the small livestock? We ate it too. Given that you were changed into wolves, why did you not eat raw meat like wolves do? That is not our response. That is not our custom. We ate it roasted like men. Question. How did you hold it? Given that you had wolf heads and paws, according to what you are saying, with which you could not hold a knife, nor prepare a spit, nor carry out the necessary tasks. Response. We did not need a knife. We tore the meat with our bare teeth and put the pieces on bits of wood when we could find some, and when we ate the meat, we were once again like men, but in doing so, we did not use bread. We took salt from the farms when we set off. Question. You would eat your fill, and the devil would eat with you. Pris aftermat poseris negat. Response. The sorcerers ate in hell with the devil, which the werewolves were not allowed to do. They would enter stealthily, take something, and flee with their loot, because if they were met, the guards hired by the devil would hit us ferociously and with great iron whips that they called pricks. And they would chase us out of hell like dogs, because the devil could not stand us. Question. Since the devil could not stand you, why would you become wolfmen and go down to hell? Because we wanted to bring back from hell what the sorcerers had taken there, like livestock, wheat, and other seeds. Because others and I had delayed doing it a certain year and had not gotten to hell while the doors were still open, we were not able to bring back seeds and wheat taken by the sorcerers, and there was a bad harvest. But this year, the others and I acted in time, and we did what we had to do. The informant would have brought back barley, oats, and rye from hell himself, as much as he could carry, and so we would have excellent harvests, however more oats than rye. I'm guessing that's a preference? Question: when did this happen? Response: before Christmas, the night of St. Lucy. How many times per year do you meet in hell? Normally 3 times. The night of the Pentecost, St. John's, and St. Lucy. Concerning the first 2 times, not always, but especially nights when the wheat is ripe, because at that time the sorcerers take it right then and carry it off to hell, and the werewolves get to work in bringing it back. Question: so who were you with then, the last night of St. Lucy? Response: with the people who had come from many villages from Rodempe and Sunzo regions. We knew them and asked them their names because different troops were there. Skysten Rhine, the son of the man mentioned earlier, had been part of one of them before me, but I had not seen him recently and do not know the reasoning. One question about those from Jürgensburg. Thais replied that they must have been part of another company because none of them were in his. Question: how can the informant say that they brought back this year's good harvest from hell, which was carried away by the sorcerers during the last night of St. Lucy, since the wheat is not yet ripe, and therefore could not have been taken? Seems like a... Which is the night of St. Lucy? I will pause and find that out for you guys. Night of St. Lucy. I'll, all right. So, depending on where it was, is either the 13th of December or the 16th of December. Now you know. All right. Question. The response to how were you able to bring back the wheat when the wheat was not yet ripe and therefore not able to be harvested? Response. The sorcerers have their own time, and the devil plants a long time ahead. The sorcerers take a little, carry it off to hell, and the werewolves bring it back. Our seed does not grow, and it is the same story with the fruit trees. There are some in hell also, and fish. What's Kevin saying? Why can't you just... Okay, he's just a little slow. All right. Okay, that was weird. All right, anyway. At Christmas in hell, all the wheat is already completely green, so are the trees. As during the last night of St. Lucy, we succeeded in bringing back a good part of the fish stolen by the sorcerers. We can count on good fishing this year. The sorcerers take the future seeds and carry them off to hell, but they cannot grow as much as those that are planted and grown in hell. So, metaphysical seeds, not literal seeds. Each time that you went to hell, did you find buildings that are there permanently? He answered affirmatively. Have you been able to see people living in the area? Response. This place is not on Earth, but below it, and the entrance to is protected by a door that no one can find unless he is part of it. Question. Are there women and girls among the werewolves and Germans? Response. There are women, but girls are not admitted. Otherwise, they would become Poikin, which is a variety of demon, or Drakes, which are kind of little people that live underground in Slavic folklore. They would be bewitched and make the abundance of milk and butter disappear. There are no Germans in our company. They have their own particular hell. What becomes of werewolves when they die? They are buried, like other men, and their souls ascend to the sky. The devils take sorcerers' souls. Does the informant frequent the church? Does he listen with reverence to the divine word? Does he pray zealously? And does he take communion? He does not take any of that. How can your soul go to God, given that you do not serve him but the devil, and that you do not go to church, at least to confession, and that you do not take communion, as you yourself admit? Response. Werewolves do not serve the devil, because they rob him of what the sorcerers bring him. This is why the devil hates them, cannot stand them, and he has them hunted like dogs, with great cracks of his iron whips. Sorcerers serve the devil and do his will, which is why they belong to him body and soul. Everything werewolves do is for the good of men, and if they did not exist and did not rob, did not steal the potential harvest from the devil, there would no longer be any harvest in the world at all. And Theus affirmed this by oath, adding that the Russian werewolves he had come earlier the year before and had taken the blessing, luck and fertility, of their country. This is why they had a good crop, which was lacking in our country, because we arrived too late. But this year we preceded the Russians, and we will have a fertile year, good in flax. Why would God not accept my soul because I do not go to church and do not take communion? In my youth, no one told me anything about all of this. No one taught me. I do not do any harm at all. With great zeal, they showered him with advice and made him understand. I will get back to that question later, but I don't really know much about them, in all honesty. So you might as well just look it up. Question. It is not doing is it not doing harm to steal the livestock of one's neighbor, as you acknowledge doing, and to transform in your imagination the image of God, man, into a wolf, to have missed taking the oath made to Christ, your Savior, at the time of baptism, that is to renounce Satan, his cohorts, and his works, to forget God and commit the highly forbidden sins that disgust and offend other people, not to go to church where, thanks to the sermons and priests, you could come to know God and be in his servants. You prefer to head toward hell while our pastor comes by the farms and urges you to pray and go often and faithfully to church and allow yourself to be instructed. Response. I did very little wrong to the livestock. The others did a great deal more. It is true that the good pastor comes by the farms, instructs the people there, and prays with those who are there. I have also repeated with them what the good pastor would say, but then it turned out that he could not come any more. It seems that now I'm old, I have to learn this. How old are you, and where were you born? When the Swedes took Riga, I already knew to harrow and labor, and they took Riga in 1691. I was born in Courland. Since the last night of St. Lucy, you went to hell again. Why did you claim to have given your spell to a peasant from Allah a long time ago? Response. I did not tell the truth because I do not have much strength left and I am old, but I will do it now. Question. What benefit did you reap from being a werewolf? Everyone knows that you beg and own nothing at all. Response. Nothing. Not a single thing. A fellow from Marienburg put a spell on me by drinking to my health, and so since I have had to behave like a werewolf. Question. Do werewolves receive a sign from the devil so that he can recognize them? No. He marks sorcerers, deals with them, and feeds them heads of dead horses, toads, and snakes, and other vermin. Since you are old and without means, you must think about death every day. Seems kind of cruel. So do you want to die a werewolf? Response: No, before my death I will put the spell on someone else if I can. Question: How will you do it? Response: I will do it to me. I will do it as it was done to me. I will drink to someone's health and blow 3 times into the jug, saying, "May what happened to me happen to you." The other person takes the jug. I won't be a werewolf anymore, and I will be free. Question: Don't you believe that this is also a sin and demonic illusion, that you cannot give it to anyone except a person who, like you, knows nothing of God and is inclined toward it? Response: It is true that I cannot put the spell on anyone against his will, but many have asked me, seeing that I was old and incapable, to leave them my spell. Question: Who asked you for it? Response: They are far from here, some in the area of the Honorable Judge, others in Sunzel, and I wouldn't know their names. When you and others were changed into wolves and looked like wolves, dogs would have attacked you and hunters surely shot at you. Since you said that you were since sorry. Since you said that there were big ferocious dogs near hell. Response: We could easily escape the dogs, but the hunters could get us. The dogs of hell didn't do anything to us. Question: According to what you said, the fellow Tyruman from Sigevold went into the peasants' farms and took pigs from their fattening pens. These farms are not lacking in dogs. Was he not attacked and bitten by them? Response: If the dogs saw him. When that happened, the werewolves would run much faster than them, and the dogs could not catch up. Tyruman was a very bad fellow, and he did a lot of wrong to people, which is why God made him die young. Question: What became of his soul? Response: I do not know if God or the devil took it. Question: What did you do with the wheat heads and trees and everything you took from the devil? Response: We would throw them in the air, and the blessing, luck and fertility, would come back to the country on rich and poor alike. Upon which he was taught some things, and he was persuaded that all of this was an illusion of trickery of the devil, which he could not see, for example, in the fact that people losing their livestock and their pigs from the fattening pens in this way would not hesitate to do some searching. They would eventually find traces, especially of the pigs, in the spots where they had been burned and eaten. Response: We did not steal close to the farms but far away, and who could have discovered us? How is it possible that one of these big fat pigs or one of these large horned animals could be carried off by a wolf for 20 or 30 miles or more through bushes and fallow fields and even outside of Estonia, as you say? You must be able to see that all this is only false imagination, demonic duping and illusion. It is truth. The fellow Terriman of Segevald would be gone sometimes for a whole week. I would wait with my company in the bushes, and when he had brought back a nice fat pig, we would eat it together. In the meantime, we ate hares and other wild animals that we captured in the bushes. Now I no longer have the strength to run so far and capture and bring back something. I can have as much fish as I want, even if the others can't, because I have a special gift for that. Question: Don't you have the intention to turn to God before your death, or let yourself be instructed in His will and His being to renounce these demonic practices, to repent your sins, and so save your soul from eternal damnation and the punishments of hell? Thais did not want to answer frankly. Who knows where my soul will go? I am old. What can I understand about such things? Finally, strongly pressed, he declared himself ready to abandon all that and turn to God. His sentencing was to go back to church. So let's talk about that a little bit. What was going on there? All right. So, as you saw, you had your werewolves sneaking into hell and trying to take back what was taken from them, or what was taken from the people of that land and bring it back around certain times. To me, with a lot of details that don't quite add up. To me, this sounds a lot like Christianity melding with paganism. There were pagans in this region or into the Baltic region through the 18th century. Livonia didn't really have very many pagans left, but to me it feels like the remnants of an old pagan priesthood that had adopted some of their dogma to match that of Christianity, not dissimilar to the bards of Ireland, which had dropped the elements of pagan storytelling to resort primarily to history, unlike the Druids, whose primary function was that of priests. So, you then have a judge fairly unaware of the cultural practices of the Balts because he's German and had studied the Catechism of the Church, which states that werewolves are a variety of witches. So that's what he's coming into all this with. But in the end, he could have declared Thais of being a witch, and we could have found him guilty. Instead, his final verdict was, you need to go to church and learn the gospel better. In my opinion, I don't think that Christianity and paganism would blend well together. Not too sure how that would end. On contraire, Christianity and paganism blended together throughout Europe. In Ireland, you had the holidays being overlapped with Christian holidays. The symbol of the clover was at one point in time a pagan symbol, but St. Patrick reappropriated it to represent the Trinity. Similarly, a lot of pagan symbolism involved a three elements in one. You had the Mother, Maiden, and Crone, which were the three stages of life, and would be the three stages within one, and this allowed them to teach the doctrine of the Trinity much easier. In Scandinavia, you had the appropriation of the Yule feast, which allowed for people to continue to celebrate a harvest and basically give offerings to ensure they're able to make it through the year. Which would it lead to religious wars? Yes, occasionally. There were the crusade that was fought that formed this crusader state was formed as a crusade against the Livonians and Lithuanians. That crusade, that series of crusades lasted around 100 years, the longest of which was the crusade against the Lithuanians, who eventually won by allowing their nobility to convert to Christianity, so that way they could ally with Poland and defeat the Teutonic state. And the thing is, when you actually allow various elements of someone's previous beliefs into your belief, it makes it a lot easier for them to palate, or it makes it much more palatable to that person. It's saying they're not entirely wrong, just they have a couple details wrong, as opposed to, you're going to hell and everything you know is wrong. A fair portion of the saints were actually heroes, demigods, and gods. from previous religions. Certain ones that couldn't be reconciled were turned into demons, but take, for example, Frigga became a saint. Um, Freyr became the Elf King, which is a folkloric figure which was outside of demon or angel, which was already pretty heretical and considered superstitious, but it was tolerated. Generally, when you see an area convert from Christianity or from paganism to Christianity, what would happen first is missionaries would be sent in. Those missionaries were as agreeable as they possibly could be. They would try and allow as many things into Christianity as they possibly could. The church would then slowly try and root out all their old practices, which they called superstitions, which would involve various things like magical folk remedies. And yeah, older Christianity was more flexible, definitely. Particularly old Catholicism. During the Middle Ages, there were hundreds of different cults of Christianity. It wasn't just here's the Catholic Church, what the Catholic Church says goes. Different monastic orders had different dogmatic beliefs. Different orders of nuns had different dogmatic beliefs. The various crusading orders, which are monastic orders, also had different dogmatic beliefs. Witches and werewolves were actually both considered the same by the church. A werewolf was someone who, according to common belief, had offered, or according to Catholic belief, had offered their soul to a devil in return for a wolfskin or an unguent, usually made from the fat of a wolf, to put on so that way they could terrorize local livestock and destroy someone economically speaking. That was the most common version of werewolf that you find in particularly France, which had more werewolf trials than witch trials. Germany also had this as a concept, but Germany also had a couple other concepts. You also have natural-born werewolves, which were people who pass down father to son who become a werewolf. For these werewolves, anytime they would leave their clothes behind and run out at night and just be a normal wolf. They weren't particularly evil. They didn't make any pact with the devil. That was just what they did. They were something a little different than human. And they frequently lived off in wooded areas. If someone moved their clothes while they're transformed, they would be trapped in the form that they were. There's a story of a man who would transform into a wolf every night, and the wife had eventually picked up that he went missing, and thinking that he was cheating on her, decided to stay up one night and see what went on. So she looks and looks and eventually finds out that he transforms into a werewolf. And that he has to climb back into his clothes as a wolf before he transforms back to human. So, what did she do? She hid his clothes, trapped him as a wolf, and moved out. And married up. Eventually, when the prince of the area was riding out on a hunting trip, this werewolf presented himself to the prince and displayed that he was able to understand what the prince was saying and displayed high intelligence. So the prince allowed the wolf to follow back inside, to which he growled at his previous wife until the prince picked up on what it was and allowed the wolf to search through his wife's belongings until he eventually found the clothes, outed the wife, and then she was punished for adultery. And how exactly witches and werewolves compare to each other? Werewolf, within the paradigm that they are in fact a form of witch, is strictly a type of witch. It is someone whose magic is focused on transforming. That is not to say that is their only spell they can cast, but that is just a spell they can cast. Does that clarify that? Wow, there's a really big lag on YouTube today. So, if anyone else has any questions, feel free to ask about werewolves or the like. I plan on eventually talking about them in much more length at a future date. But for now, I'll just answer any questions you guys have. Another way to put how werewolves and witches compare within that paradigm. Witches are rectangles, werewolves are squares. Not all witches are werewolves, but all werewolves are witches, except for within the Catholic Church's paradigm. And Protestant Church, actually. So, I'm going to end this early because just coming out of being sick. So, thank you guys for sticking with it. I hope you enjoyed the slight change of pace that I had for you guys today. Yep. And I'd like to wish you all a good night. If you have not done so, please like and subscribe. I know I'm saying the dreaded words, I'm sorry. And good night. I should probably have OBS open to sit before I say good night, so that way I'm not just awkwardly talking. Woo!